systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo, and we're back for the final NFL show of the season. We got the Super Bowl. This is going to be an exciting one, breaking down all things Showdown over on DraftKings, bring up the FanDuel stuff at the end. Hoopster and Title with me as always, and Hoop, going to bring you in first, man. It's always a sad day when the season's ending, but it's been an amazing season over at SHIPIT Nation, been an amazing season to watch, and now we got the Chiefs and Eagles, man. Big-time Super Bowl. What's going on?
Yeah, it's kind of weird, last Sunday waking up and I don't know, it was like 20 straight Sundays where we're hopping on doing the show. And I kind of woke up. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? And it was a weird feeling, no football. But obviously it all culminates to this. The Super Bowl contests are massive all over the industry. Best ball stuff still going on. I know a lot of people have fun with the prop bets and everything. So it's going to be fun. The focus of this show is obviously going to be DFS related, where, again, the contests throughout the industry just absolutely massive. So I'm going to break it down, talk roster construction, game theory, strategy, all that stuff. And, see if we can't get some of these SHIPIT Nation logos to the top of the leaderboard, which has been happening very often lately in a variety of different DFS sports.
That's been the key. It's been across all sports. Title, what's going on, man? How you doing? Final free money Sunday coming up that we got. But it's been a great season, man. Been a lot of fun doing these shows together. So we got one more in us. What's happening, man? How you doing?
Yeah, it's a good one to definitely get to the top of the leaderboard. These prize pools, absolutely massive. FanDuel, DraftKings. Yeah, plenty of money to be made. What's nice about this, it being a Chiefs slate, is, Eagles is so condensed. The great thing is with the Chiefs, though, ownership has to be spread out to an extent. You don't know who the running back is. They rotate a bunch of wide receivers, play 2 tight ends. So that is the nice thing on this slate. Eagles, condensed, you know what's going on. Chiefs, more of a wild card, and that can lead to less dupes, can always leave money. So that gets me a little excited. It's not 2 complete condensed teams where you have to play a guy that gets like 5 snaps to hopefully get different. Not the case this week.
Yeah, it should be a lot of opportunity and ways to get up. It depends on how aggressive you want to be. It is obviously $1 million up top in the main lottery, but like Hoop said, ton of other good contests. So lots of different things that you can do. And nice thing about these 2 teams is we do sort of have it spread out a bit more. When I bring up Shiptimizer, you just mentioned that. When I bring up Shiptimizer, you'll see even what you're getting on a first run or something like that. It's condensed on 3 guys, but after that, it's kind of leading you to the ownership being a little bit spread out on the others. So you can get your leverage where you want to get it. Hoop, do you have a grand scheme overview, or where do you want to start for this game? Because, just what do you think is going to happen? It's another Super Bowl. There's 1,000,001 conspiracies out there. We don't need to get into all that stuff, but what do you actually think, or how do you see this game playing out with the Chiefs against the Eagles?
Yeah, I don't have like a super strong lean. I will bet on something just to have some action, and I'm leaning towards betting on the Chiefs, but I do think it is a close game regardless. I think we see a close game that I think it's more of a grinded out type of game. We'll see when we talk through it. A lot of times we do these shows and I have one opinion when we start, and then we get to the end of the show and my opinion is completely different, because obviously you really value what you guys have to say along the way, and it does kind of dictate what I do. But my initial lean is Chiefs in a grinded out type of game, 22-21, low 20s, something like that, I think is what we likely see in this game. So that's kind of my initial lean, I guess. And so really, in terms of game, it's not a super strong lean. I'm betting on the Chiefs most likely just to have some action, and it's not going to be like a massive bet or anything. It's going to be something more for entertainment purposes. My son's a big Chiefs fan. He's a big Patrick Mahomes guy, so I know he'll be rooting for him. So it's more of an entertainment bet to say the least. But in terms of DFS, I think there's a variety of different ways to go. We can kind of talk through it all. There's different dynamics in this game with the teams that we've seen all season long, like with the Chiefs. We talked about it all throughout the playoffs, where Mahomes is more willing to run in the playoffs, and 2 rushing touchdowns. There were a lot of designed runs for Patrick Mahomes, which I think is definitely a talking point. And it looks like they've kind of shifted to more Kareem Hunt over Pacheco, and that fits everything. The eye test test and whatnot, Pacheco's looked terrible. I mean, he has no explosiveness, really no big plays. It's definitely a talking point on the slate, the Chiefs running backs. And then, obviously definitely more condensed on the Eagle side. It's been a ton of Saquon Barkley. If Saquon Barkley's rolling, they're going to continue to go with him. The passing game for the Eagles has been all over the place. I think there could potentially be some opportunities there that we'll talk about, but I don't know. I think it's a very dynamic DFS slate from a lot of different standpoints.
That's why I like these ones titled, because Hoop just gave us the bet of the century. It's like generational wealth. There's a 48.5 point total, and Hoop said the Chiefs win, and it's going to be like 20, 21, 22 points. Literally no way it can get even close to 48 if the Chiefs are winning with that number in front of their score. So I'm betting the under 48.5. Hoop, thank you for the first bet of the show. It's a sports betting show we're moving on to. Title, that was my main takeaway from everything that he just said. What did you get from it? And then what do you see shaking out here? How do you see this game going? What's your first thoughts?
I lost a lot of money betting against Mahomes last year in the Super Bowl. I got some back last week against the Bills. I don't know how I can bet against Mahomes right now if I were to. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to put a big bet, small bet, any bet. I mean, GFS, that's what we specialize in. You can get plenty of money down in DFS if you want. You can get rewarded very greatly, $1 million up top. I believe both sites. I won't be on FanDuel. Good luck trying to get more unique over there. But we'll talk about it at the end. My thoughts, like I said from the beginning, though, it's so condensed on the Eagles side and it's so spread out on the Chiefs side. Like, it does look like it's Kareem Hunt. Who knows? They've had 2 weeks off. What if Pacheco now feels better? Obviously, dealt with the injuries, and Pacheco outsnaps him a bit. What if the Eagles jump out 14-0 and Pirine? You saw Pirine get the biggest catch of the game to end last week on that third down. What if it's trailing game script? Pirine outsnaps him. Right now, looking at the stone, we have both Pacheco and Pirine. Pretty much half the ownership is Hunt, and even Hunt at 26%. That is, how often do you get a starting running back at less than 30% like this? So I love that for the Chiefs. Look at the wide receiver stuff. It's definitely Xavier Worthy, number 1. Hollywood Brown, number 2. Juju looks to be number 3, but Watson still gets in a bit. D-Hop still gets in. Noah Gray, still they play a decent amount of 2 tight end sets. He's 10%. Defenses will be low owned. Kickers don't look to be having too much ownership. So I'm really happy looking at the ownership, seeing it relatively spread out. Can always leave some money on the table and have a plan. Like you talk about building in sets. Maybe if you're playing 100 teams, 20 teams, you're fine with it chopped 100 ways. You take your 30,000, whatever that is, you'll be happy with that. I'll be aiming probably 30 or less. And if you get a 10, I mean, you're going to get rewarded greatly. I don't think I'll have too many solo or unique teams. I mean, I'm not going to play some of these like Nico, Ramigo, or any of these guys. But I'm going to play guys that are on the field, but with ownership, thinking about roster construction, playing a Chiefs captain and not playing Mahomes. Why is that? It's a salary-based game. If Saquon and Hurts outscore that, there's little things like that I'll be trying to get difference to cut down the dupes. But I think it's a great game for DFS.
It definitely is, because of the teams that we got here, so I agree with you fully there. It's hard to get a take on the game. I was teasing Hoop about the under thing, but I do like the first half under. It's a 24. I'm not always betting. I know the streak ended, by the way, so it's probably all L's from here on out. Went 7-0 and then went 0-2 to finish that streak off. But I will say, Hoop, you've talked about this all season. It's sort of part of the grand scheme overview, and it does tie to DFS, and it ties to what Title was just talking about. If you're building in sets like I do or trying to build to a game script here, is the Chiefs have been very comfortable just running that ball. And this is literally the worst team to run against. It's so hard to run on the Eagles, but it's not like they can't figure out different ways. Doesn't mean they just run the ball. It's these short over the middle to Travis Kelce. It's little things that they can do. And all these things just kill the clock. And then the Chiefs hope that they get, like what your take was on the game, they hope they get that last drive, whether they're up or down. They've seemed to be able to find the success no matter what to be able to make that happen. And if that's the kind of game that you have going with it, I do seeing it being a little bit more, back and forth, clock running quickly, that sort of thing. Do you have any just extras to add there, Hoop, or anything else you took away from all that we just talked about?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the run game of the Chiefs that gives them the ability to make it like a grinded out, ugly type win. They'll do the passes to Kelce behind the line of scrimmage, and he kind of just barrels forward. They'll do the end around stuff with Xavier Worthy, which I mean, essentially like a handoff to him. And they've hit like Hollywood Brown on some shorter stuff recently. So all the little short passes to me are just an extension of the Chiefs running game, grind out the clock mentality type stuff. And they're very, very good and effective at doing it. So, I agree with your point there. I mean, I don't see them just jamming it with Kareem Hunt or Pacheco. First off, I don't think it'd be smart, because I don't think it's going to be successful against this Eagles defense, which is very good. So, I agree. I think we see a lot of the running extension type plays, the stuff to Kelsey, the stuff to Worthy, and we can talk about that a little bit more when we kind of really dive into it.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I mean, that's the other thing too, is the Chiefs are literally the best team in the entire NFL that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They just stick to what works, and that's why people start to hate on them, because they just continue to do it. And you hear people say, you are allowed to bet on them, no matter whether it's the far stuff with the conspiracies or the actual shit that they're just good at what they do. Andy Reid knows how to run the show. Spags, great defensive coordinator. Some of those blitz packages he ran on the Bills, where Allen thought this, and the next thing you know, there's another dude in the mix, and it's 5 instead of 4, whatever the numbers were. It's this type of stuff that they can pull off is extremely incredible, and it's really hard to adjust for and know what's going on.
They're just way smarter than all these other teams. I mean, they literally baited the Bills into running the ball, just nonstop. They baited them right into it, and the Bills fell for it and just stopped even attempting to pass. It's the dumbest thing you see these teams do. They find success on the ground and they just pound it without ever mixing in a pass. It's crazy to me. So dumb. And then their tush push thing, it was so obvious. I don't know who was in the booth for that game. I can't remember. They called it out. Watch Josh Allen drop back. He's going to go to the left. He does it every time. And then
Romo
had that.
Called it
Romo nailed it. And they had
preparation, though. We talk a lot even in DFS about preparation, and golfers talk about it. Football players getting ready for the game. They literally knew if there was a tush push situation for the Bills, Josh Allen's going to run it to the left, and there was already 3 dudes waiting for him. And that's where was he over the line or not? It looked like he was, but that's where you can't leave it up to that title. Know this. The MMA streets. Don't let it go to the judge. You don't like how the judges are going to call it. You think the judges are going to call bullshit? Don't let it go to the judges. You're allowed to 100%. Choke them out, knock them out, take them out. Do what you have to do to make it go in your favor. They did not put themselves in that position in that game, and that leads to the Chiefs being here again.
Yeah.
Well, and Ty Johnson.
Go ahead, yeah.
No, you tweeted it. Ty Johnson instead of James Cook, and the game's the season's on the line at the end. Let's have your best running back who's ran it down their throat the whole time. Yeah. I mean, a lot.
So he's getting 7-8 a carry, and then they give it to Ty Johnson. I mean, smart coaches in the NFL win, dumb coaches lose, and the Bills guy pooped his pants. I mean, he did it. He does it time and time again.
Is Sirianni going to poop his pants? I mean, the Chiefs have the coaching advantage.
Yeah, I mean, he's done it. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Andy Reid is clearly the best. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. And coaching in the NFL is so important. It really is. I mean, just trying to talk through it, Mrs. Hoop doesn't watch football closely, but she's like, how do the Chiefs win every single year? How do they continue to do this? And yes, they have Mahomes and Kelsey, but really the reason is honestly probably Andy Reid and what they've built. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. So just to touch on the Bills thing one more time, you see, they had to see it, all those defenders going to that gap where Josh Allen, they did that 3 or 4 more times in the game. They did it 3 or 4 more times in the game. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't feel bad for the Bills. I don't think they got screwed over. The Chiefs were the better team and took advantage of that. I mean, just so dumb, man. Just so dumb on so many levels. But I guess, Chiefs are a good organization.
We'll get to the captains in a second, but I do have an extra add-on comment because it's going around. It's already viral from last night. But you talk about good coaches and coaches winning. And one of the best coaches of all time that there was often, was it Belichick or was it Brady? Brady is bad in the booth, lost his wife to her trainer. Belichick is still rocking the rings with a 24-year-old on the sidelines at the awards last night. Belichick's still winning very clearly. What's your take there, Title? What do you think? Belichick, best coach of all time and still running it, or what?
Yeah, probably. A lot of the coach, it's discipline. You see so many just one penalty or 2 penalties that just change the whole landscape of the game, whether they're about to punt the ball and you have a 15-yard unsportsmanlike or a late hit on the court. Just little things in the game can swing everything. And the great teams hardly make those mistakes. And the Chiefs are one of them. They're going to come in, have a game plan, stay disciplined for 48 minutes, or basketball's 48 minutes. What is football even? 60 minutes.
60.
Been talking too much basketball lately.
In the street.
And they're also will be aggressive when the times to be aggressive. How many coaches are throwing it on 3rd and 8 when the Bills have no timeouts? It was either going to be a 54-yard field goal and they would have like 30 seconds left. How many of them are actually going to throw that? He trusts his best player, Patrick Mahomes. You make the right play. You have to trust your guys too. We have so many bad coaches we see all year. So when we see one, you praise them like it's everything, which I guess rightfully so. It's crazy you can't find 32 people in the world that actually know what they're doing. But discipline, game plan, sticking to it. You just have to avoid the penalties, the negative yards, and the Chiefs are really good at that.
Under such a microscope too. So the way it goes, right? Everybody's going to call it anything and everything. And then it's all, he's a fake sharp. He was super sharp. And then they're a fake sharp. He was super good. Now he's horrible. It does happen, but it's just because the decisions are so hard in the moment. And you see a team like run it when they should run it again when they should run it on 3rd, and they get it both times. And then the 3rd time when they're even close, it's like, you did all that to now give up for the field goal. And the lad's like, got away with it twice. I have to stop. Like, analytics were your thing. And now they go out the window on the one when you should actually do it. It's insane.
The obsession with like the secondary and 3rd running backs in the NFL is getting a little out of hand. I mean, I honestly think it was, I talked about it with the Lions, with David Montgomery. Clearly, Jahmyr Gibbs is alpha running back, top 3 in the NFL. You open up the game with David Montgomery. I think it was the Packers in the playoffs, down 2 scores. They're running it with their backup running back when you need to be passing it. See it with the Bills. James Cook just rolling, absolutely rolling. You're running the football and you're handing it off to Ty Johnson, a pass catching back. It's stuff like that the fringe good teams in the NFL just really, really fail on executing. And you see these elite organizations, they never make those mistakes and just get the job done, man. It's wild.
Yeah. All right, let's get into this. We're going to talk the captains first. Hoop, I'll stay with you. It looks like I'm going to bring it up as I talk through it, but just to note it before I bring it up on the screen, it's Barkley, obviously, and then it's actually both quarterbacks getting the love here at their prices. They are much cheaper. So Barkley, 18,000 in the captain, Mahomes 15, Hurts 15.6. So a little bit more than Mahomes there, but kick it to you first, Hoop, on these captains. Your thoughts. And I'll pull up the dry run too.
Tough to make a case against any of them. I mean, if you're building a lot of teams, like, I don't know how you make a case against any of them. I mean, I'll start with Mahomes, and I think it might actually be the easiest case to make for playing him. And it's just the running stuff, the play calling where designed runs for Mahomes, which you don't see at all in the regular season. They clearly save it for the playoffs, and he's been very good at running it. Not only like on the design stuff, he's got to be like the best in the NFL in just like knowing when to take off, and he's very decisive with it, and he'll just always get the yardage. I mean, just so damn good at it, and the proper angles. 11 rushing attempts last game, 7 the week before. I mean, so he's averaging close to 10 rush attempts in the 2 playoff games. I mean, it just makes him a great option. And then if you are playing him in the captain, there's so many different ways to go with him. Like, he has multiple pass catchers, can obviously play him with Kareem Hunt, Juju Smith more involved really than DeAndre Hopkins lately. You could potentially play Hopkins. They're priced where a touchdown, he's priced where a touchdown probably does it. But there's just so many different ways to go with Mahomes and captain. So definitely good with him there. Tough to argue against the hurt stuff. I mean, what's going to happen if you fade him. Saquon's going to fall short at the 1, and he's going to get it's crazy the number of times it's happened this year. It just happened that last game where it looks like Saquon's coasting in, he gets tripped up down at the 1, and that's when the dude just kept intentionally jumping off sides. Like, it's a free 6 points for Hurts. And then the season that Saquon's had, I mean, obviously the matchup's not great, but I mean, he's just the best by far. So to me, very hard to make a case against any of those 3. After that, I like the tight ends. I like Kelsey and I like Goddard. Like, Kelsey had the down game last time, but they didn't necessarily need him. I could see this being a big Kelsey game. We talked about the extended run type stuff where, they're not necessarily grinding the clock by running it, but these short little passes, I think Kelsey could rack them up here. And Goddard on the other side, I think, stands out as a play. Like, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, it's tough. Like I said, it's been so up and down all over the place. Goddard's price, where if you do play him in the captain, I mean, you can get a lot to go along with it. So I do like Goddard up there. Worthy is another guy to throw in the mix. I mean, the big question mark to me on the slate is what do you do with the guys like AJ Brown and Devonta Smith up top? Like, because I'm assuming, let's see, the ownership, we're showing AJ Brown. I bet it's lower than that. We're showing AJ Brown at 7. I bet it's probably lower than that. And then we're showing Devonta Smith at 3. So that's probably a pretty accurate number. That's the big question mark to me. I feel good with, the quarterbacks, Saquon. I feel good with the tight ends, and Worthy. But outside of that, like, man, I don't know. I don't feel super comfortable with anything else. And it just seems like it's going to be one of these names that kind of gets the job done and is the guy that you need up top. So I don't know. I probably spread it out a little bit more than I typically do at the captain spot, because I do see a lot of appealing options. And I see a lot of paths to optimal for these guys.
Title, what about you? I definitely think a lot because of the teams that we have, and you've hit on this already. Hoop literally just said it, and it makes perfect sense. I think a lot of people just spread it out, right? Because you get good low ownership on some of these options. Let me get as many that you can get without being silly. Like, not when you say spread it out, doesn't mean you're going underweight. You may actually have leverage on everyone you spread it out to because of the ownership. But I do think people, because they don't know where to go, I feel like especially casuals, but even experienced players just aren't going to be able to make a stand here. And I think, that's something we'll talk about. Give me your take first. So let's go with your captain thoughts, everything Hoop just said, and then what you've got to add.
Yeah, I can't condense it on this slate. I'm going to play the 150. I just cannot figure it, like, at ownership. Like, I don't know how you don't play some AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. It leverages off of Hurts and Saquon stuff. They're super low owned. AJ's got the best receiving prop on the slate. Like, I know we haven't really seen it much, but if he goes for 120 and 2 and he's 6% at captain, like, there's probably going to be a lot less dupes right there. But I also the Mahomes stuff is like, I'm going to play. All right, let me just circle back. I'm going to play 9 captains, and it's really obvious. It's Mahomes, Hollywood, Kelsey, Worthy on the Chiefs side, and it's Hurts, Saquon, Goddard, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith. If Kareem Hunt gets there, Pacheco, if Juju, if any of them get there, I won't win. I think they're the clear 9 best. And I think why I also want to play all 9 is there's so many ways. We talked about the Chiefs, the 3 running backs on the Chiefs. I'll be mixing them all in the flex. And in certain game scripts, the Pirine stuff, if they're down, the Pacheco's, Hunts, when they're up, I think I can get different enough in the flex where I can spread all them out. My lineup can tell a story in all of it. And again, I'm shooting for less than 30 dupes. I think it's really hard. If you just said, I'm playing Patrick Mahomes, Saquon Barkley, and Jalen Hurts this week, to have a full 150 set that you think looks really good, it's not for me this week. So I'll be playing 9. My favorites, Worthy's my favorite. Speed kills. I think they're absolutely going to need to get Worthy the ball early and often in this game. I think he has the rushing upside, which you can play him without Mahomes and the captain to get different there. One play can take it for 70 yards. So he's my favorite. Devontae and AJ Brown, I have to play a decent amount. They're just super, super low owned. And again, it's easier to leave money with them than Saquon. The next talking point, Saquon is a big boy price tag. $1,600 more than Jalen Hurts, $2,000 more than Mahomes. I get it for sure. The problem is I'm a little worried that it's harder to get different in some Saquon builds because a lot of the value when we get to there in the flex is going to be relatively condensed. Like, no one really on the Chiefs. It's really tough to play these, like, I guess Calcaterra is actually fine. But when people do punt, Juju, Pirine, Noah Gray a little bit, I think it's going to just be more spread out there. And you have to get these cheapies when you're going Saquon up top. So it's really, really scary. I'm going to play Saquon, obviously, but I'm probably going to have to be underweight him. I'm probably going to be overweight Hurts and just hope Saquon does keep falling at the 1 or 2. Again, just watching what James Cook did to that Chiefs defense, though. That running defense has some issues right now. The 2 weeks, though, hopefully Spags takes Saquon away and makes Hurts, AJ Brown, and all them beat. I'm going to play like that, and more so just DFS the ownership. 7-4 for Devontae, 9-6 for AJ Brown. If they're even close to the highest scores on the slate, which I think they maybe could be, I think you can get a lot different, leave more money on the table. I'll definitely be doing that, playing against 294,000 people in the big one. Yeah, I'm good with Kelsey. He's playing a great defense. He's not prime Kelsey by any means. He's going to want the ball. I think they're going to need Worthy, though. I think they're going to need Worthy really bad. Hollywood on the outside, I'm definitely going to embrace some of that. Goddard's been solid. there's no hot takes here. I'm playing those 9 guys. I'll be relatively similar to the field on them. I know Worthy's my favorites, but again, in those builds, it's telling the story, and it's not leaving $0 playing all the chalk. If you win holding hands with 400, I'm more worried about lowering the dupe count. That's why I'm fine playing 9 of them in 150 teams. If I was playing less teams, yeah, maybe if you're playing 20 teams, you probably do want to cut it down to 4. I don't know what 4 is the problem, though.
Yeah. I got a lot to talk about. I think that for what you just said, even like one thing you just noted too, like it's literally like when you're building for less dupes like that, it's kind of like you're building 9 sets, not purposefully because you're not necessarily building them in sets, but you're taking the versions. If you built 50 lineups of Barkley and you were only going to take 30 of them and be underweight or whatever, like that was your plan to take that, you're almost taking the Barkley lineups you like the best, that have the fair dupe counts or less, that makes sense, and the build's strong, and you're good with it. You're doing that for each of your 9. So it's kind of cool because you have 9 captains, but you've got leverage on a bunch of them, underweight where you feel comfortable being underweight, but you also have the versions of those lineups that you actually want. So I like that call. One of the things that stood out that you said that this is what's most interesting to me, like James Cook just worked these guys. He should have kept him rolling in there, but yet everyone's talking about it's not necessarily the best matchup still for Barkley. I don't think our ownership is correct on initial run. Obviously, we adjust it as we move it along. That's what we're always working on, is making these as accurate as possible. What title do you think Barkley's captain ownership actually gets to, though?
I think he'll be about 18, 19%. I think all 3 of them kind of eat into each other. Like optimal builds right now, Mahomes is the captain in the optimal builds. Again, that price tag being 2,000 less is big, and the 12,000 I think keeps it somewhat in check. But I mean, everyone loves. If you haven't faded Saquon, if you haven't played him in the playoffs, you've been drawing dead every time. I think the game log, just knowing all of that, it's really easy people really want to click Saquon. So I think it's a little higher than we have, but I do still think it stays in check with those 3. And like I said, I'm playing 9. Like the Kelsey's going to get some, Goddard's going to get some. Like it's going to be, I think, relatively spread out.
That's why I'm going to, that's where I was going to go with it and going to say a couple of things. Shout out to our guy, by the way. Jill came down with a 250. I mean, he's been fading Barkley every week and getting destroyed, but he's the man. We like the bit in Discord. He's one of the members over at SHIPIT Nation. Quite fun to get some laughter in there with a guy like him just constantly saying fade the best play on the slate. But I think that even, let's say this scenario, Saquon gets all the clicks. Everyone, thinks that this low ownership, and he gets up to 25, 26. I think that's so low for what it could be for this game. And I think a lot of people, even in the chat, are mentioning you could fade him and naturally get different. I'm going to be overweight Saquon here. I'm going to be overweight all the Eagles. One of the biggest things I think is because people love to play all these different Chiefs and spread it out and do all this stuff, I might actually have the least captains I've had all season to play for the millie. It's a different strategy. I'm just going for it. But I want more angles of attack and more outs of if my captains are right, give me all the best builds within. So everything I talked about within your 9, I'm going to clip it down. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to ride with what I talked about off the top. And I didn't fully go into it. I talked more on the under than side. But I think the number is just set at what the number's at, because it is. Like, nobody knows who's going to win this Super Bowl. I'm going to play Hurts, Barkley, Brown, Smith, Goddard, and then maybe Hollywood Brown or something on the other side. I'm going to try and fade as almost all those Chiefs and hope that it gets spread out. I love them in the flex. Like you said, get busy with Worthy in the flex. Get busy with Brown or Juju on the outside in the flex. Mahomes, you could literally play a 5-1 with Mahomes, the amount he spreads it out. And what if he runs one in too or something, and he's been running it on the ground? So my excitement of this slate is to condense, get way overweight on these Eagles. It already should be, like, to me, Jalen Hurts and Barkley, if Eagles win. Think about what I'm building for. If Eagles win, it's Hurts might have got 3 on the ground. Barkley might have got 2 or 3 on the ground. One note that I thought was a crazy stat that I think was Datarama on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, was really solid, was the Eagles, Jalen Hurts specifically, versus successful blitzes versus unsuccessful. And let me explain, because obviously that sounds pretty obvious. That when he's getting blitzed, he does bad. When he's not going to, it's more of, we know how good Spags is against the blitz. And we just talked about it, what he did against Josh Allen. But if these blitzes, for whatever reason, Philly's ready for it and they're prepared for this time, and it's unsuccessful, that leaves time open, and that leaves guys like Smith, Goddard. Smith plays the slot more. That could be him. If A.J. Brown gets loose on the outside for a 40-yard grab early, and then it starts the spiral effect, These guys are coming in too low. Saquon, even if he gets to 25 to me, is too low. Hurts being kept in check by everybody needing some of everyone is good for me. So I'm going to be focused so heavy on the Eagles, and I'll just get crushed twice. I'm not a Chiefs hater, but I just don't want to continue to see the same team win. But I feel good about these Eagles this time. And I think it's going to surprise people if the Eagles win. I don't think it's close. And that's a hot take. Probably that sounds, it's crazy to say that the Chiefs lose by 2 touchdowns. But I'm just saying, I think if the Eagles do win, I think their defense does its job. I think they find their way around. The Eagles come through. So I'm going to build for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl instead of spreading it all around. Just hope it goes that way. And I'm really going to be overweight on a lot of those Eagles options. Hoop, I'll kick it back to you to talk a little bit here. Anything to add on that, or any thoughts on sort of what we just went through?
I think the Saquon ownership stuff's pretty important because I do think it does get held in check. I wouldn't be surprised if I think there's a chance it's like 15%. And that might not be it. I mean, that might not be the number. I mean, but I think there's a chance it could get as low as that. I mean, there's a big gap in pricing between him and the next guy. I mean, he's 12,000 real price. Jalen Hurts is 10-4, $1,600. And obviously there's a lot of cheap plays, a lot of different ways you can go. But you have that factor, the big pricing gap. And then you have the factor that there's like 10, when you just look at this, appealing options. Like there's 10 other appealing options. People will play kickers. People will play defenses. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if, 15, 16, 17, somewhere in that range. And I'm kind of with you because I think you're leaning that direction. If that's the case, to me, it's just way, way too low, like way too low, and a really good opportunity on this slate. Now, obviously, a lot of Saquon captain teams are going to be duplicated. He's still going to have a lot of popularity, so you got to look to do other things within, and there's a lot of different things you can do. But I do think his ownership's held in check for sure on the slate, and like kind of title alluded to. Based on projections and everything, you go in there and run teams, you're going to end up with a lot of Mahomes. Mahomes captain is going to show up a ton because he's projected, basically the highest on the slate, and he's a little bit cheaper than Saquon Barkley. So I think Mahomes is one you got to be a little bit cautious of. I think he's the one where the ownership starts going. Someone posted in the chat that last year it was Mahomes captain team that won it as well. So I think the Mahomes captain stuff is the spot where you got to be a little bit cautious. But again, that's still fine because there's a lot of different ways to go about it. I mean, we have a lot of different pass catchers that are in play with Mahomes. Like you said, you can do 5-1 with Mahomes. A lot of different ways to build with Mahomes.
Yeah, the thing about the Mahomes captain, I'm fine with it. Like, it's just that's the whole point is if you play him, there's tons of ways to get different with him and the captain. People are like, oh, he's getting too popular, whatever. That's your call. I'm going to play 0 Mahomes, and I'm going the opposite of my usual thing. It's never Mahomes except in showdown and small slates. This particular slate, I just want to play it the way I want to play it. That's simple. It's that easy. I want to see the Eagles win. Not personally, I'm saying for my lineups. I want to see the Eagles win because that's going to lead to most likely an Eagles captain. And I'm going to have a ton of different variations of the Eagles captains. And I'm also going to do what Title said and find these less duplicated versions where I think I'm in a good spot for a fair number of chops. And with Saquon, Hoop, you nailed it. Usually we don't like the golf analogies on the football shows, but the season is ending and golf's going on and we're excited. Golf is back at SHIPIT Nation. So I will say this is the opposite of what they do in golf. Like this week, when the Scotty Scheffler gets to 60% because the pricing's horrible. They made it significantly different here to get to Barkley and the captain. He's 18 grand and there's tons of cheap options, but you got to make a decision. And in the back of your mind, there's people like, yeah, but if I just go to Mahomes, I can still keep Barkley in the flex. Yeah, but if I just go to Hurts, he could steal his thunder anyway. So let me just do that. He's 15-6 up top versus 18. So I don't know. Let's wrap up the captain talk title, but that's just the way I'm seeing it. And even if Barkley does pick up steam, I don't think it's enough for just what it could be.
Yeah, I mean, we're taking different approaches, but you're trying to win $1 million. You're trying to win 6 figures. The more likely way to do that is narrowing it down. So if you do get the Eagles win, if we're telling you right now, like one of those 5 Eagles are captain, you have a way better chance to win than I do because I'll have 60 dead teams with Chiefs dead or whatever. I don't think the Chiefs win. So I definitely don't want to take that approach. But It's also a minus 120 plus 100. Like, would I be shocked at all if the Eagles win? No. The A.J. Brown-Smith stuff, like the ownership is just so low and you're leveraging 2 of the chalkiest plays on the slate in Saquon and Hurts. Like, I can't get away from that. Goddard's been a beast in the playoffs. again, I really like Worthy. Why couldn't Hollywood go for 100? And like, I can make a case for every single one. So again, I feel good where I'm at. But if Eagles win and there's 5 of them that are on the optimal, you have a lot better chance to win than most people, because almost all the 150 maxers, they're not doing that. They're spreading it out like me. They're playing the portfolio game. I would be surprised to see some of the best, or a lot of the pros, just like zone in on a couple 3-4 guys. They'll run their sims, they'll have it spit out whatever, and they'll just go from there. So you are going to be overweight on everyone you play. So yeah, I totally get it. Good luck to you. I'll have some of them, but yeah.
It's definitely a play. You nailed it. That's a great call. It's a strategy. That's why, even when we talk about putting up the content over at SHIPIT Nation, we'll have it up early for you guys for this one for sure. The Super Bowl is a huge game. We're all excited for it. But, read it, take your opinions from it, and do what you will with it. We want you to do the same thing, not copy what we're doing, but copy the thought process of, okay, I know what like Title said. I'm not doing that, but I get why you're doing it. That's Tambo's play for this way, talking about me, where others are going to do it differently. But take your approach and run with it, especially in a game like this, because it's a lot of ifs. It's if the Eagles win, and it's if the Eagles win and you need an Eagles captain, which, yes, they correlate usually, but crazier things have happened. But the point being, that's what I want to play for, because then it gives me a ton of different leverage in spots I already like the leverage. So it's a win-win for me, even if it's an overall loss and the Chiefs spank them 31-14 or something. That could happen. And then it's no good for me, but it's the stand I took to try and give myself a shot. And I think the game definitely can be close. And I think there is a spot where the Eagles just figure it out and get the job done and in good fashion. I'm not going to go with our guy Ross here. It sounds quite Shipley, getting Shipley in there, but let's take a shipper. I would definitely take one if the Eagles get the job done and see what that looks like. So, Hoop, kick it back to you, man. Is there more you want to talk about at quarterback specifically? I know we sort of touched on both those guys since they're so popular at captain, but obviously they both work in the flex. Go from there. And then if nothing else, we'll kick it over to Title to talk about it as well.
Just, soft pricing. There's a lot of cheap guys like for flex for sure. The floors are so high, especially with Mahomes running it now. It was 11 times and 7 times, and it just really increases his floor. So I definitely want a lot of these guys in the flex, in the in the captain. For me personally, I'll be playing both of them as well. So definitely as much as I can get. I think I prefer, Mahomes to Hurts straight up though. And I do think, most people probably will, and projections are kind of leaning that direction as well. But, I'm on the Chiefs a little bit, I guess. Like that's my small little lean. So I'm going to lean there at quarterback as well. So I'm going to have a lot of both captain and flex.
Perfect. Title, anything else to add at quarterback?
I will not. I don't think I'll have any lineup that does not have any quarterback. Curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that, but it's a way to get different. It feels really, really tough to see it actually happen.
I'd be shocked if the winner faded quarterbacks. Absolutely floored. Like, I'll do another shoey. How about that?
You got to do more than that.
Wait a second, though, just so I can clarify. Are you saying if there's no quarterback at all, or if both aren't on it?
No quarterback at all, and quarterback and captain or flex.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll build any line. I won't build any lineup. I'll make a rule to have at least one of them in the flex. And there's no hot take.
Go ahead.
No hot take at all. That's the only I'll play a lot in the flex. I'm playing both captain. That's just the one thing that stood out. Some slates we do talk where it's it is viable on this slate. Like Russell Wilson, he's garbage. They can run it. You can have the receiver, etc. on the other side. I don't see it on this slate.
I thought Hoop was saying that both of them would be in the winning lineup, and I was definitely a possibility. One of them, but that would be I'm going to have a lot with both in there too. The thing about me is Mahomes makes a ton of sense. It's just I hope he ends up in the flex instead of the captain. That's how it's going to shake out for me. When I'm talking ever Mahomes, for anybody who's following along or listening or watching it back, I'm talking in captain. I'm running that back this week. I always love playing him in captain during showdown slates, but for this particular game with the full milli up top, with the way I'm looking to build, it's just not going to happen for me. And that's fine. And like I said, the chief I probably use up top will get there at wide receiver, but it will probably be Hollywood Brown. I'll probably leave Mahomes, Kelsey, and Worthy out completely, and I'm not going to try and figure out the running back. So it's I'm not trying to do too much with these other guys. So it'll be Hollywood Brown with an actual stance. I'll have some Hollywood Brown, and then maybe a Juju or some of the cheap wide receiver lineups that end up there. But I'm going to be heavily focused on Hurts, Barkley, Brown, Smith, Goddard. That's where my focus is. Maybe even some Eagles D as well. If I think it's that under game that I talked about and the Eagles do get the job done, that's really good leverage that way too. But, again, it's not really about a number of captains for me, but I know I'll have it spread out enough where there's Barkley leverage and definitely leverage on all the other main Eagles like Brown, Smith, Goddard, Hurts, etc. So, all right, Title, we'll stay with you at running back, man. We talked a lot about Barkley. We talked a lot about how hard it can be to figure out what the Chiefs are doing, but how Hunt has kind of gotten the mix a little bit more. What's your take here at the running back position this week?
Not a strong take, but the reason, just looking at ownership, 26% we have Hunt, 10% Pacheco, 12% Pirine. Pirine's my favorite. A lot of that has to do with salary. He's only $1,200 compared to $5,200 and $6,400. And especially it feels like in your builds, Tambo, if you do think Eagles can win by 2 touchdowns, if they're trailing in the second half and there is no run threat, they can't get the run going, it is going to be Pirine back there, pass blocking, getting dump offs. And again, he's $1,200. You need salary relief on this slate. He's my favorite Chiefs running back to go to. And again, 10%, 12%, I'm totally good there. The Hunt and Pacheco's of the world, that'll be more in game script stuff where I don't love the idea of going Mahomes captain with Hunt and Pacheco. I'm not saying I'm fully going to make a rule to avoid it, but especially if I'm hand building, there's no way I'm doing that. I'm more likely to play them maybe it's hit or Pacheco and Hunt and then a Worthy, and then 4 Eagles on the other side. Chiefs get up early, Hunt or Pacheco falls in the box. They do enough for the price tag. Then the Eagles on the other side have to get it going because they're playing from behind, etc. I don't love 5-1. I guess you could 5-1 Pacheco Hunt if you think the Chiefs stomp them. I'm not really playing for that much. Moral of the story, who knows what's going to go? It feels like it's been Hunt. They're going to continue to ride Hunt. It's a really good Eagles run defense. Just say it is Hunt to start, and he cannot get anything going on the ground. I do think they would try Pacheco. Can he give him a little burst, something different? If they can't run the ball at all, I think you see a lot of Pirine. I think they'd be smart enough. You can't just completely abandon the run and play. Just everyone knows you're going to pass every time. But at the end of the day, if they can't get anything going, put the ball in Mahomes' hand every single play, figure it out. If that's the case, Pirine, I think, will be next to him for the most of it. But again, at ownership, I'm going to play some Pacheco. He's 10%. If he does fall in the box once or twice, he could still fall in the box twice, not be needed at captain because of his price. He just gets you 14 DK points, but it's on the winner at really low ownership. It's not often you get every single running back under 30% on a team. That's little stuff I'll be doing. It's not fun. It's not comfortable. But if it is on the winner, you have a better chance at low dupe. So I'll go that way. Pirine's my favorite. Nothing to say about Saquon. He's phenomenal. Kenny Gainwell? I don't know. I mean, if I have 3 teams or 4 teams with him, fine. By no means would I click him in 20 teams or less. I think they ride Saquon as much as possible. With all that being said, though, because he is playing. He got concussed in that game. That's why Shipley broke off that long run. Gainwell's still in the playoffs. 10 snaps, 6 snaps. He had 12 snaps last game before he did get hurt. He'll be on the field a little bit. 1 catch for 40 yards. 1 breakout run like Shipley did. He can find himself in the winner at 3%. So by no means am I Xing. You can definitely play him with Saquon. And I feel like for you, if you do think Eagles can really get there in a big way, 14-21, if it's the last drive, Saquon will sit out. He'll be on the sideline celebrating. Gainwell will be in. Garbage time counts the same as the first minute of the game too. A lot of money swings there. So I'm curious to hear y'all's takes at the running back.
Definitely fine with that build. If Barkley's in the captain, you got Gainwell in the flex. Not going to get a bunch of it, obviously, but in those certain scenarios, that would make sense. Just like, the Hunts and Pachecos of the world, that would be a situation where if I'm going for the under and a lineup that looks like it's going for the under and makes a lot of sense to me, I'd be fine with them being the touchdown that falls in the box, them and Mahomes. Mahomes moves on the ground, throws one to one of them, something like that, where it's a get unique that way to one or two of those guys in the flex. But Hunt with Mahomes or Hunt by himself, Pacheco with Mahomes or Pacheco by himself, I'd be fine setting it up that way in those types of builds because you're not going to get a lot more out of it. And most would land on spending more money with a Worthy or a Kelsey or a Brown or something like that. And you can play Pacheco or Hunt there. So I think that's more of how I'd be looking at it. The Barkley stuff's obvious. Already talked about that. Do you have different running back takes or any extras to add on?
The Eagle side is pretty easy. The KC side is a little more difficult, and we got our prop guy here. So I want while I'm talking title to get me the touchdown prop number on Hunt and Pacheco. But I'm
ready?
On.
Plus
Oh, you already
140,
got it.
plus 140 Hunt, plus 275 Pacheco.
Yeah, see that Pacheco plus 275, and like all these sports books, all the numbers are pushed toward. Yeah, it's robbery. So I mean, so he's like 4-1 probably in realistic terms. Like what is plus 275? If you could bet the other side, yeah, he's probably 4-1 to score a touchdown. Like I don't know if I can play Pacheco. And yes, there's a path where he gets in there and scores a touchdown. There's a path where he gets in there and scores 2, but if he scores 1, it still might not be enough. So I probably, if I do take the route of spreading it out at captain, which I'm currently leaning towards, I got to start cutting off some of these numbers somewhere. And if he's 10 to 15%, like I can just throw that away and make up for a little bit of it there. So I might end up fading Pacheco. I even struggle with Kareem Hunt. Like I get it with Kareem Hunt. Like it looks like he's been the guy. He's been out the majority of the time, 17 carries last time, but he scored touchdowns in 4 straight. He needs a touchdown in my eyes because he's not getting a ton on the passing side. Like there's not been much passing work despite more overall work. He's had one reception in the first 2 playoff games. So he's, to me, touchdown dependent. And he's not even favored to score plus 140, which in my eyes probably closer to 2-1 to score on the other side. So I don't know. I'm torn. I guess my favorite running back for KC is Pirine. I mean, because he's priced at 1,200 and one drive, he could get it done. Like one drive, he can get 7-8 fantasy points, and that could be enough at 1,200. And then I'm not playing Gainwell, so I could have very low percentage here at running back. Like definitely Saquon as much as I can get. And I do think the price tag keeps his ownership in check a little bit all around, captain and flex. Probably fading Pacheco, definitely fading Gainwell. Likely underweight on Kareem Hunt. That's what I'm leaning at this point. And then I will have some Pirine. So I'll be overall at the running back position underweight and making some fades and stands here.
Yeah, that's going to be the difference too, in like the strategy I brought up earlier. And you could do it with the Eagles if you're playing all Eagles captains and not much of no Hurts, no Barkley. Said like if you were going to do it that way. The one thing about being very condensed at captain is you can sort of spread out the flex a little bit more versus vice versa. Like what Hoop's talking about, you don't want to be spread out in multiple places because then it's kind of just hoping for the right, like the Yahtzee stuff I talked about this week. You're just trying to get it all versus this will at least give me more outs or angles to it, regardless of what side you're comfortable condensing at for captain or just in general. If you pick 5 captains, 3 from one side, 2 from the other, you can now get more. You can mix and match a little bit more within your build. Let's move on. Let's go to wide receiver and Hoop. I'm going to stay with you here. Chiefs side, we talked a little bit about Brown and Smith on the Eagles side, but on the Chiefs side, it's like Worthy, Brown, and then what do you do? Like Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, Watson. I mean, there's other guys too, but just in general, it's always a bit tricky to figure out. So how are you handling the wide receiver position?
Yeah, so for me personally, the Chiefs side is easier, and I do agree with Title, and Title's been ahead of this. I mean, he's been ahead of the curve with the Xavier Worthy stuff. I remember the show. I can't remember, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, he caught the ball out of bounds though, and I got nothing for it.
Oh,
should have got rewarded with money, but
yeah. The mindset, the call was correct. Regardless of the outcome, the call was correct that he's definitely the number one there, and it wasn't very obvious at the point you made the call, but it ended up being correct, and the dude's a stud, and they're getting him the ball in a variety of ways. Absolutely love him. Definitely good with Hollywood Brown, and I'm good with Juju, but man, like DeAndre Hopkins, like he's a possession receiver that needs to get there with volume, right? And like, now that I think about this a little bit more, like the volume's not there. Could he find a lucky touchdown? Maybe. So I think I only really like Hopkins in Mahomes captain teams, but man, it just seems very unlikely. And I'm sure you have the number there. Like he's got to be a massive underdog to score a touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins, like it can't be
plus 475.
Yeah,
it should be like plus 1,000s.
Yeah, so it's like, man, he's a tough click for me, even at 4,400. Like you got to probably do something on this slate. So Worthy for sure, Hollywood Brown, yep, and then Juju. I mean, I really like Juju. His role, there's clearly a connection there between Mahomes and Juju. There's a reason he's out on the field more so than he was in the regular season. I know there's injuries and whatnot, but I think he's a phenomenal play. Least favorite for sure is Hopkins. The A.J. Brown stuff, I don't know. Like he's the one guy I got to really decide what I'm doing, and I'm leaning towards fading him fully fade. Like I talked about, I want to make some stands here along the way to make up for playing a lot of captains. And he's a guy I could fade. Maybe actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, maybe only play him in Hurts captain teams and then fade him in the rest. Like I think that's the move I'll make. If I'm playing Hurts captain, I'll play AJ Brown. But outside of that, I don't think I'm going to be playing him all that much. Devonta Smith, maybe a little bit, and that's it. So really like Worthy here, really like Hollywood Brown, really like Juju, but I'm really not thrilled with anything else. So I think it's going to be easy for me to make up for spreading it out at captain because I'm going to make some stands at these positions and definitely leaning towards an AJ Brown stand here where I'm probably only playing him in Hurts captain teams.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing, like the AJ Brown comment specifically, because it's kind of like leans to why he is a much better captain. Like it's either an AJ Brown game or it's not, is what it feels like. Is AJ Brown really going to be, almost $10,000 in the flex required with like a set? What's the line going to be? Like 760 and 1? I don't know. It feels like he's either there or he's not. And why I really do like him a lot more up top to Hoop's point. Otherwise, you just get guys in there like a Barkley who already takes up the spot. And he just does enough. Even if it's a floor game for him, it's still required, but in the flex. Devonta Smith, guys like Smith and Goddard can pick it up. I talked earlier about that blitz stat from Datarama that he brought up on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. But that's the whole if thing again. It's not really like if my aunt was my uncle, if my aunt had nuts, she'd be my uncle. Like, yeah, that's when people are talking about shit that's stupid, that doesn't even make sense. Like that's off the scale completely. This is saying if the blitz doesn't work against the best team in the NFC or work as good as they would like it to for enough plays, you could see AJ Brown get loose for one early. You could see Devonta Smith cut it over the middle and then shoot out to the thing, have a 56-yard touchdown. You could see Goddard rack up a bunch of catches and then get a touchdown or two, where it's more of an if thing, but it definitely is a potential and a realistic possibility. But you do still have to think about your roster construction and the if this, then that. Minded Title's favorite thing, like that's to me the AJ Brown thing. Is it as likely as some of the other stuff? Probably not. But if it happens, isn't that how you see it kind of happening more? I don't know, Title, do you think anything else on this stuff? That's just kind of how I would see it, at least for the Eagles side specifically.
Yeah, I'm in lockstep with you. I think AJ Brown and Devonta Smith are much better captain plays than flex plays. If they get there, they fully get there. I'd rather a 4% Devonta Smith, like 6% AJ Brown captain and 4% Devonta Smith than a 33% AJ Brown flex. And what do we have Devonta Smith for? 25. Like you're getting a fifth of the ownership, and when they do get there, I'm expecting like if AJ Brown fully gets there, it's hard to see he's either going to suck or it's going to be all Saquon show. Hurts is going to get the rushing touchdowns, or it's an AJ Brown game and he breaks loose. Give me like him at 5% to try and get all the way there. Again, I'm going to play a lot less tight than Hoop and Tambo. I haven't played 150 in Showdown since the first game. I'm going to be spread. It only takes one team. If every single bubble was on the left and I was chopping first, trust me, I'd be a very happy man at the end of the day. If you have the second nuts in Showdown, depending on the chop, you actually might be a little sad. At least sometimes I am, because so many can be up top. You're really playing for first place. So I'm definitely going to be diversifying a portfolio, but I definitely like AJ Brown and Smith more at captain. My favorite, Worthy's my favorite. I've already said that. Flex captain of a bunch of Xavier Worthy. The wide receiver threes, Juju and Jahan Dotson, I don't know if I'm going to say most overweight to the field, but we have Jahan Dotson at 4%. We have Juju at 15%. These guys are on the field. Dotson, 55%, 62%, 57% of snaps. Juju, 58% last week, 41% the week before. They're the clear wide receiver threes right now. The people are going to be passing. Dotson got the touchdown early against the Packers. It only can take one for these guys to get there. So I like that. I'm going to take some shots on Justin Watson, too. I agree. D-Hop's my least favorite. The reason I prefer Watson is he's more just a go route. If he does get there, it was the Steelers game on Christmas Day, I believe, or one of those days. Or Thanksgiving, Christmas, they're all blending in. But the 2-game slate, they played the Steelers. Watson was on the winner at like 1%. Caught a really deep ball on the sideline. Eventually, he did get a touchdown. He seems like their go guy outside of Worthy. One catch could be enough for him. It feels a lot less likely that one catch for D-Hop. Feels like all of it, his ADOT is so much smaller. So I'll embrace some Watson. Again, we're looking at like 2% owned, 3% owned. That's when I'm playing chalkier stuff. If he gets there, that's how you can eliminate a lot of dupes. Definitely going to play Hollywood. I like Worthy, Hollywood a good bit. I like Juju. Mentioned Watson, Dotson. So I guess, yeah, those are my favorites for sure. I'll play some Brown Smith, but I agree with you. My main takeaway, I do prefer them at captain.
Is this like a pay up for probability thing? But like, wasn't Hopkins just like interjecting with Juju like back and forth? Like if it's not like everyone's on Juju here because of his price and they saw him get some shots last game and all that stuff. But is it, if it wasn't Juju, could it be Hopkins? Like they went out and got this guy. He had one good game for them. I think it feels like maybe a couple, but like, is this a spot where they could just use Hopkins and trust the long-term of him? Or do you think there'd be no chance?
I wouldn't say no chance in any of this. The 2 weeks is a long time for teams to prepare, to watch tape. Like they got D-Hop for a reason. It's just, Juju had a good game last week and he outsnapped him by over 3 times, 38-12. Even if D-Hop gets a couple, like it just feels really hard for me to see that absolutely reversing, especially again, Juju had a good game. He's a good run blocker. But anything can happen. Like I'm not going to not play D-Hop, but I'd be surprised to see, I think Juju at least 2 times him in snaps. And at the end of the day, give me opportunity guys on the field than guys more so on the bench.
So crazy shit happens, right? This is what I was asked this. Like D-Hop if D-Hop did have something crazy, like that wouldn't be that. It's D-Hop. You would still be, there'd be super fans that came out from the past, old Titans fans. Like that's why we went and got him, Chiefs fans. Like one thing I'm thinking about with him is I was at the Super Bowl in, I forget what year it was now, but it was the Patriots. It was the Marshawn Lynch run the ball and instead they throw the pick. And I remember this specifically. Chris Matthews was a dude that nobody even knew who this guy was for the Seahawks. He had 4 for 109 and a touchdown, but it's because of what Title said. It was like they had 2 weeks. They get this guy up that nobody's expecting shit. They used him at the end of the first half for like a 40-yard grab that when everyone thought it was over, got some extra points out of that. And then it was like, holy shit, this guy's having a big game with 2 weeks. There's a lot that can happen. But is there a chance here, Hoop, like Hopkins actually has a bit of a game? Because no one's playing him at all.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get some ownership. It's not going to be like nothing. But the problem I have more so like just how do these guys get there? How do they become optimal? And for Hopkins, like to me, he's right there with like the kickers and stuff. So he's got to outscore kickers. He's starting to creep up to those running backs on the Chiefs side. He's probably got to outscore those guys. Whereas like Juju at 2K, like 7-8 fantasy points is probably like enough to be optimal. So if I was going to take a chance on that scenario that you're laying out, which could definitely be true, I think it would be more so with a guy like Justin Watson at like 600. Like, all right, they've designed a few plays with him. If he executes, like good, and it's going to surprise everyone, and he's unknown.
And if he doesn't execute, it doesn't kill you. He's 600. But again, you're probably not getting to the top, but we've seen crazier things.
This is like one of the toughest guys for me to come up with the route where he gets to the top. Hopkins, like what is it though? Like what's the game?
Tambo just said the 2 weeks D-Hop's actually involved.
Yeah, but I'm saying actual game. So do you think there's a path where he goes out and gets 6 for 70, 6 for 80? That's what
4 for 40 and 1.
What's his prop?
Find the touchdown.
Just about to get titled to run.
I think he needs
14 yards,
like 28 or something.
11.5 receiving yards.
Yeah,
11.5.
Yeah, but the thing is,
11.5.
All these Chiefs are awful. 16.5 for Juju, 7.5 for P. Ryan, 11.5 for Noah Gray. Like it's.
I'm betting Hopkins alts for the
Hopkins is at 11.
Yes, and a half.
Like
and Justin Watson isn't even up there, which shows like they think he'll be 0 or he just would smash the over. They don't want to risk the one catch. Like the Chiefs props are not good. It's because it's so spread out.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. So here's how my brain works. Because Hoop's right. When it comes to the actual game, I'm with Hoop. Like, how the hell would this guy ever get there? It's like what Title said. What I said is the 2 week wait. Sure. And it's a real guy. It's not like a creative player. It's DeAndre Hopkins. I get it. But my DFS take and how my brain works is looking at a slate and trying to dissect it, make things work. We literally sat there for 10 minutes between all of us and said, we don't know if it's going to be Hunt, Pacheco. We literally all like P. Ryan better. And so, yes, you can play P. Ryan over Hopkins in this example, but I'm saying in that price range, if we can't figure it out and neither can the Chiefs and it's the worst run matchup, if everyone's on a cheaper Juju, yeah, you got to pay for it. It's $2,400 more, but maybe you get something. Their prop is 5 yards apart. It's a prop. Who gives a shit? Like it's just a guideline. There's not much else to go to there. And by the way, these teams aren't kicking it above. You're the game log guy for the kickers. Who pull up these game logs for these kickers? I could be fully wrong, but like the Eagles go for everything. It seems like the Chiefs have been going for it a lot more. Like they're going to kick it when they need to, down the stretch. But if you don't like the defenses, the kickers aren't needed or the teams go for it against each other in most spots, and you can't figure out the Chiefs running backs, it's not like you're playing Gainwell, Shipley, whatever. If people are playing Juju, then all that says Hopkins by DFS mind. It doesn't mean it's right. It's what it all says and why I believe it all says that. What are those game logs looking like, Hoopster? You got them?
Yeah, I mean, Elliott's been pretty consistent. There hasn't been a spike. 7, 11, 10, 8, 11. He did have a 19, had a 10, but the Bucker stuff has been definitely not what you'd expect. 6, 11. He was injured, so this kind of 5, 10, 3. So there hasn't been any spikes, but the dude has a receiving prop of 11 yards, man. 11. That is crazy.
All numbers. They're all like a bunch of people are going to bet them wrong, and someone's going to bet them really right. That's really what's going to happen. If for example, in my point, I'm going to bet the Hopkins alts and use them some because it's all pointing my head there. But if it's not him, then it's somebody else. I know everybody, by the way, if you're looking at prop betting, like literally everybody has the Juju one on their card. There's no way Juju doesn't break 20 yards. Well, that's another lean towards it. Like, why is Juju just guaranteed 20 yards because of last game 2 weeks ago? What does that even matter? He's on the field, sure, but doesn't mean he gets anything. Cooper Kupp played a bunch of games this season. He was on the field the whole game and nothing. So it's like, he's another topic for another day, but just to note it, like that's, to me, the props are all bad. I think Title said it best there. I think they all could be bad plays, but in a million up top with what we're going for here, that's just an angle of approach. So I don't know. I don't have much else at wide receiver. It just made me think of that. I love the Watson call though, Hoop. And I think, again, they even set stuff up for him in the red zone, in the end zone, right? He's running along the back, and if he's open, they'll throw it to him. So, $600 for him seems pretty nice. All right. Tight end, Hoop. I'll kick it to you. Kelsey, he's, winning the Super Bowl and then proposing to Taylor Swift. We got that one, but, Kelsey's going to be popular. We know what it is. Chop it up over the middle. He's 9K, by the way. So, that's a decision. That's a thing there. Kelsey's 9K. AJ Brown is 9,600. I like AJ Brown more up top, but man, that is, interesting in itself. Man. Worthy is 8K. So I don't know. It's an interesting spot here. Kelsey, Goddard, Calcaterra, and Gray. Go ahead.
I pray for that dude that he makes a wise decision. I get there's obviously some business aspects to it with Taylor Swift and whatnot, but if you take away all like who she is, the money, the success, could you ever fucking imagine being married to somebody with that sort of like personality and persona? Like I literally would kill myself, man. Like that is the most irritating person of all time. Has to be. Like it has to be. I mean, it doesn't even seem like a real person. Everything is fake and phony. I can't even imagine it.
I don't know much about her personality, honestly. Like
I just looking at it, man. I don't know. I can draw some conclusions for sure. I can draw some very quick conclusions.
Me personally, I'm out on looks, and that's a bad thing to say.
Yeah, same.
It's not my style. It's not what I'm interested in, but I'm just saying, I don't know too much about her. And obviously it's a literally insane limelight or like spotlight that you have to live under. That is just nuts. My daughter loves her. So, Swiftie fans, you got all this stuff going on all the time. I see her and hear her all the time, but I don't know too much about her. And, so I couldn't really say on that, but yeah, it's for Kelsey. He seems to be pretty happy. And that is the narrative, right? It's gotta be for Kelsey, for the Swifties, get down on one knee, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how that work.
Man, a fucking disaster. In terms of fantasy for this game, though, I do like them. Like 9K, like we talked about, they want the ugly, grinded out type of game. If they can't run it, they're going to get him a lot of short stuff. Definitely has the touchdown upside. It just seems like if the Chiefs are going to have success, like in the Super Bowl, third in a row, yes, all that other stuff looming in the background with him and his relationship, like it just seems like the spot for him to do something. So I will be in on him, but the other tight end on the other side I like even more, and probably my favorite play on the slate is Dallas Goedert, and I love him captain, I love him flex, I love him all over the place. I mean, at 5,800, I think he's just a phenomenal play, and I'm viewing him as their wide receiver one because I think Kansas City is very good on the outside with these guys. I think they're going to have success against AJ Brown. I think they're going to have success against Smith. I think Goddard has opportunity to open things up for him. I think he has a big game here. So really in on Goddard. But I do agree with what we were talking about before at the wide receiver. Like if you are interested in AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, I just prefer to go up top with them. I'm probably not doing it, but if you are in on them, I prefer them up there because I just don't see a route where there's any in between, right? It's either they get there or they don't get there. So I do agree at that point, but Goddard's definitely my favorite pass catcher for the Eagles. And then Noah Gray, I think you can definitely play, probably better suited for Mahomes captain teams. 2,800 flat, kind of priced right there with Juju. I think he's a good play too. He's a guy that could kind of, we talk about these guys that could have a bigger surprise role. I think it could be him. I mean, he already has a role, but I wouldn't be surprised if they even extended a little bit here in the Super Bowl. So, we talk about some of the short stuff with the Chiefs, the short little passes. He could definitely benefit from that. So, really like this position, but I'm calling Goddard as the guy this week.
Buddy said she looks like olive oil from Popeye.
Yeah.
I had to pull this up and see. Interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. We're keeping it relevant. You can tell it's getting to the end of the show. Title. I like the Goddard stuff. I'm not going to go too much more in depth here. I like Goddard, Gray. That'd be the two, the double G's there. Kelsey will get played. I'll have him in the flex. Obviously, I'm not playing Kelsey up top. I've already talked through my strategy at captain. So I'll kick it to you. Anything else to add at tight end? And then once you finish that, take us right into kickers and D. We already looked up the kickers too. So anything else you got to add?
No, I'm with you where I prefer or Goddard's my favorite, and then it'd be Noah Gray. Like I'm not fading Kelsey, but I'm totally fine playing a Kelsey team. Take Kelsey out, go to Dallas Goddard. $3,200 you leave on the table right there. Part of the things, I guess, circling back to the Pacheco Hunts of the world, like you drop Devontae Smith down to Hunt, Worthy down to Hunt, Goddard down to Pacheco. You're giving up a decent amount of projection, but it's not the craziest thing to see a running back that's going to be on the field outscore one of those pass catchers. If that's the case, like the Pacheco's, Hunts, Smith's in the same range, Goddard, Hollywood, Worthy, the kickers. That is the reason that I did have some interest in the running backs. They're just in a loaded range where everyone's going to click on the pass catchers there. But yeah, I mean, Kelsey's expensive. He's really got to do something. I think the Chiefs win. Like I think he has to be involved, but he's competing against AJ Brown, Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, even Saquon to an extent. Yeah, I prefer Worthy for sure as my pass catcher for 1,000 cheaper. I think I'll play a little Calcaterra as well. Again, is it really exciting? No, just the really cheap value isn't great. He's really, like his ownership is really low. 44% of snaps, 35%, 53, 3 catches, 30 yards. If you think Spags blitz a lot, which he might, yeah, maybe a block and release, just little dump offs here and there. I'll play some. He's just absolutely unowned. If he is on the winner, I'd expect a lot less dupes. That's what I'm going for. Kickers and defenses. Oh, man. I think I'm going to have to be overweight. I'm definitely going to be overweight the kickers because the whole narrative's the same. The Eagles never kick it, even though Hoop just said it was a pretty solid line for Jake Elliott, consistent at least. And then Bucker, he hasn't been great. The thing is, if these defenses can get these offenses to 4th and 4, even 4th and 3, I think they take their points pretty early. If you're leading the under, like points will be at a premium then. Like it's going to be hard to pass up a field goal in the first half, even the third quarter, if the game's pretty close and it's a 4th and 4. Of course, if it's a 4th and 1, it's a go for it every time, a 4th and 2. But you got if you can stop them on the early downs. We used to love kickers. Hoop has always loved kickers. We're looking at ownership 20% and 18%. I'm definitely playing kickers. They can get you a 14 spot, 16 spot, a lot of volatility in it, but any 50-yarder, like nothing more tilted than 49, 39. That one extra yard can go places. I like the kickers at ownership, and no one really wants to click the defenses. Eagles defense is very good. Chiefs defense, pretty solid. It's been a little shaky against the run. Hurts always. He drops it. You send a blitz, Hurts can definitely take sacks. Holmes can take a couple sacks. So it's just a way to get different. I definitely prefer kickers, but it's not going to be fun to click defenses. So I naturally will. They have 60 minutes, to get any play. Once strips up, 48 is in my mind, and I went to 50 somehow. Strip sack, touchdown, pick 6, punt and return. So many different things, random stuff can happen. We always talk about the Rams-Chiefs game years ago where there was like 100 points scored, and the defense is still put up a bunch because one play can change it all. But I like the kickers at ownership.
Hoop, what do you got, man? I mean, we looked up the kickers earlier already, but do you got anything else to add there? If not, any take on these defenses? I think they'll be played much less than usual, right? It's been a season of that. This is the last game of the season. Sad as it is, we talked about that off the top, but the defenses look extremely low owned for this game, right? It just doesn't seem like it's going to be popular outside maybe some of the 5-1s, things like that.
Yeah, you're still getting some. And again, I'm trying to cut some corners, so I might just whack them out. I don't know. I think it's going to be tough for these defenses to produce points. What the Eagles want to do. The Eagles 100% want to run the ball, and if they do run it, they're going to continue to do it. Just not a lot of risk taking on the Eagles side, and kind of the same for the Chiefs. They're just not going to take many chances. And then you got Mahomes, who's running a little bit more. There's not going to be much downfield stuff or interceptions, and both quarterbacks are pretty elusive with pressure. So I'd be fine with 0. Just take my chances there and just not play. They're going to definitely both be at least 10%, maybe 10 to 15 range. We'll see when I build, and I'll have everything updated, likely this afternoon in terms of how I'm ranking these flex plays. But I don't anticipate much. But on the kickers, I always like the kickers, and I'm going to play them. I do think, I think Title started to touch on something that I agree with. I think these coaches will tighten their cheeks a little bit, and 4th and 3, they might just take the points early on if it's a close game, opposed to in the regular season or even early on in the playoffs where they'll just go for it. I think they might lean towards kicking it here, especially the Chiefs side. So I'll be overweight on kickers for sure, because I am making fades in that range. I'm going to be lighter on those Chiefs running backs. I'm going to be lighter, obviously, on the defense. So I'm naturally going to have to be overweight on these kickers. And I do think there's a path for them to kind of get there. I think both teams will play it a little tighter if there's an opportunity to take the points, especially early on. I think they both do it. Both these kickers are solid kickers. Not like they have rookie guys that aren't going to be able to handle the pressure. Both these guys have proven themselves in this league. So good there, but I'd be open to fading defenses. We'll see how it all shakes out, though.
Yeah, the chat, our guy Zim brought it up, but Hoop used to be the king of the double kicker. If no one wants to play any, why not play both? It certainly helped me in the past a bunch. I've won King of the Beach seats when that was still a thing, back off them, King of the Desert, things like that. So I think that's a different route. And how did we never get to that one Title? Maybe you've had it before pop up because you're the Cheeks guy, but the Kansas City Chiefs. We never had that pop up. If the Eagle, I hope they're the Kansas City Cheeks this week, just for my sake, what we're looking for. But that's a good one. And who was just talking about they might tighten their cheeks, but that could be their new nickname if they go down in this one. Hoop said, guys, we didn't go through it. We're not going to do too much of it. I'll show you one thing. We are going to ask a big favor on this, especially if you're watching it back on playback. But just of note, we'll have our current initial run for projections ownership and the Stone are both already up. We'll have our cores up by probably tomorrow afternoon, all of us at the latest, my guess, because we'll have it ready so people can dive in Saturday night and get in for Sunday. Player pool, like Hoop said, he'll have it up early. If any changes are made, he'll let you know. My slate plan should be out tomorrow, where it's got everything covered. Again, I'm covering it from this similar perspective, but there'll be more notes within that. But definitely going to ask one favor. First off, if you want to get in over at SHIPIT Nation, we did leave the $50 off up. So you can go get the first month for $49. If you're playing any of those other sports, we've got them all up here. We've got PGA. We talked about being back. MMA. So I think it's 7 more weeks in a row upcoming, including this weekend. So quite a bit of that. Title's been in the NBA streets this whole show with his 48 minutes a game. So that's going on with Rio, the rest of the team over there. Nades with NHL. NASCAR coming back for Daytona 500. So if you want to get in, now's the time to do it. Use that code SHIP50. But the big thing, we've been pushing for this all season, and we got so close. So I'm still pretty proud of this. We were trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by the Super Bowl. That was our goal. Our big, huge, aggressive goal was trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by the Super Bowl. We are at 9,710. It's a big ask. We need 290 people by Sunday night. It's not likely, and we get that. But if you do like the content, all the stuff that we do for free, look, we got the NBA show. Speaking of that, it's coming up. Our guy, GS Luke, does the PGA round 3, round 4, round 2 showdown shows. So lots of good streams that you guys can check out. You'll always get our guy DGen on the emergency stream for golf, but make sure you're subscribed to the channel. When we do get to 10,000, we're also doing a $1,000 package giveaway, our $9.99 big boy with all access, including the optimizer. Title, anything else you want to add, man? Any final thoughts from you before we get out of here?
Said on the NBA show a couple times this week, but there really is no better time to join. I'm not sure if we've had a deal as good as SHIP50, $50 off, $49 with an optimizer. But MMA, I actually think it's like 10 straight weeks, maybe 11. Pay-per-view this week, 100K up top, like every week. NASCAR, when NFL ends, which is obviously this Sunday, NASCAR is 100K up top every single week pretty much. And shout out Eric, the game, does a NASCAR content. Week 0 in NASCAR last week. If anyone didn't see, go to the NASCAR Discord, check out the screenshots. Absolutely crushed it right there. NBA in full force, no one better than Rio out there. Nades, absolutely been crushing the NHL streets too. And yeah, PGA, huge sport. No better team out there for sure than ours. Showdown content big. Shout out GS Luke there. I mean, it's go to any other site, look at the prices, compare. It's night and day. And Discord, anything but weekly is included. An awesome Discord right there. Yeah, 500K. NASCAR is huge. No one knows about it. It's tilting sometimes. You can win.
Dude, there's a lot. I mean, you don't have to necessarily look till the end because the crashes and the yellow.
I was gonna say, don't look to the end. It can be tilting, but yeah, it's big.
And like you said, there's just no point in the weekly right now. If you are someone who's going to join up for this stuff, it's even if you're not in it for the Super Bowl, you want it for all the other sports just to give it a shot. It's $34 for the week with the optimizer and all access. You can pay $49. Just go to this monthly, use the code SHIP50, try it out for $49. You probably spent $49 on worse things. We think you'll love it. We're confident you'll stick around. And we've got a huge announcement coming soon. I'll kick it to you, Hoop. Final thoughts, but if you want to tease it a little bit more, it's obviously coming very soon. I would say within the next 2 weeks is likely.
Well, you guys just left me the scraps here on the marketing side of things. So very good job. But the one thing I will add on with like these secondary sport, not secondary, but like these more niche type of sports, obviously NFL is massive. What a lot of sites will kind of do is they'll charge you additional just for these sports and then like try to rob you with like these big time price tags. Like they got the secret sauce for NASCAR charging like $500 for the season. You see the PGA stuff where they're trying to charge you $500-600 for PGA, and then their guys disappear on you that you thought you were paying for. So this is the home right here. Like we never do any of that crap. Everything is upfront, honest. You know what you're going to get. And the all access package right now is an absolute no brainer if you're thinking about joining. I mean, it gets you access to everything, the big UFC stuff, NASCAR, PGA. I mean, PGA is huge. Our PGA team is second to none in this industry. Our guy, Luke doing the shows for Showdown, James doing the emergency stream. We got all the main slate content. Like this is the home, man. Like this is the home. And then, like you said, the big announcement, we don't lightly throw that out there that we have a big announcement. Every time we said there's a big announcement, it's been industry changing. This is the biggest one yet, and it's going to be coming very soon. And people that get in with an all access package are going to benefit the most from this announcement that's coming very soon. It's going to be very, very soon. If you are interested in content, you're sitting on the sidelines going back and forth. Once this announcement's made and you don't get in, you're going to be regretting it. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I agree. Joanne's in here, says founding member, the only place to be. SHIPIT Nation is the best. Golf is money, bunch of other good stuff. But want to say thank you to everybody. It's been an incredible NFL season. We appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you hitting the like button, subscribing, doing all that fun stuff, keeping all these shows free across all sports for you guys. So thank you from all of us here, from SHIPIT Nation, for Title, for Hoop, and for myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it!